Today I want to talk about a nutrient that actually has been shown to have similar effects on weight loss compared to weight loss medication or injections, which is quite crazy, don't you think? Unfortunately, this nutrient doesn't get all the hype that it should get, and it often is only associated with one specific disease and kind of left to that. It's also often seen as a boring nutrient, and I assume that's probably why it doesn't get all the publicity that it should be getting. So I don't know if you've maybe have tried to guess maybe what the nutrient is, but today I'm going to talk about fiber. So fiber definitely has massive, beneficial effects on our health in general, and yes, constipation. We know fiber is directly linked to the prevention and management of constipation. But there's a lot of research actually showing that people with a high fiber diet tend to lose weight more easily and maintain their weight also more easily. So today I thought I'd talk about why this is and how we can practically make sure we are getting in sufficient amount of fiber in our diet. So first of all, let's talk about what is fiber. Now, fiber is a roughage. It's often quite difficult for the body to digest, so we can also see it as the crunchy part of your fruits and vegetables, or the jelly part of it, for example. And that comes down to the types of fiber. So we get two types. We get soluble fiber and insoluble fiber. Soluble fiber, think about the jelly type. Think about if you let your oats stand for a bit too long, it starts to form like a gel, or even fruits, that's often how they make jam, and so forth. Your beans and so forth often have that jelly type of consistency if left to stand in water for a while, and that is soluble fiber. And then we get insoluble fiber. Think about the crunchy, rough part of, for example, celery or your veggies or your whole grains, and that is your insoluble fiber. Both of them are super, super important because we look at it specifically in the form of in gut health and the gut microbiota. Now, when we consume fiber, when it actually gets into the colon, we can think about the colon as a pipe, and the soluble fiber actually coating the inside of the pipe quite nicely, which gives a lot of nutrients and food to the gut microbiota. And then we get the insoluble fiber that comes through as well, and almost takes that soluble fiber off of the sides of this pipe, which is our colon, and then forms the stool, which we can then pass. Now, that is super important why we need both types of fiber. We need soluble and insoluble fiber. So the best way to make sure you're getting in both fiber is to make sure you are having a variety in your diet. So we need 25 to 30 grams of fiber per day. The average person usually gets around 15 grams of fiber if they are actually, trying to eat more healthy. So it is something that we need to be consciously consuming and making sure we are choosing the more high fiber options where we can. So when we look at what foods contain fiber, that's typically your fruits, your vegetables, your nuts and seeds, legumes like chickpeas, lentils, beans, and whole grains as well. Things like your brown rice, quinoa, even popcorn, for example, has fiber in it. If you go to the store, you're going to buy a cracker or cereal or bread or whatever the case may be, turn the packet around, look at the nutritional label, look at the dietary fiber, and then make sure it has more than 6 grams per 100 gram of fiber, because then it is also seen as a higher fiber product. So the more fiber you can get in that is also better. So when you are comparing breads to each other, or maybe comparing crackers, try to go for the one that's higher in fiber. So now we know what fiber is, what the types of fibers are, and how we can make sure that we are getting it in the diet. I want to talk about why it is important to really make sure we are getting in enough of fiber in our diet. So yes, we know fiber is super important for constipation prevention and management, but we also see that it has a massive impact on health as well, and also weight loss. Now, I'm going to talk about the weight loss specifically. So why does it have an impact on weight loss? So we see that with fiber, if you think about something like, let's say, orange juice. If you have a glass of orange juice, you had to, convert it back into oranges, you would see that you need about 4, maybe even 5 oranges, it depends, to actually get to that glass. Depends on how big the glass is, of course. It's quite easy to quickly, drink a glass of orange juice, even with your breakfast. It's not even on its own. But to eat 3 or 4 oranges in one sitting is going to take quite a long time. It's not necessarily impossible, but it's often going to be the only thing you eat. So it's not going to be that with bacon and eggs. It's going to be just oranges because you're going to be so full after that. It's also going to take a lot more time to eat 3 or 4 oranges compared to drinking a glass of or 250 mils of orange juice. Now that's the one main principle of high fiber foods. Higher fiber foods take longer to eat because you actually have to chew it longer because it's more difficult to digest, it's more crunchy, it's more hardy. Now this also leads to the fact that we then eat less because it takes us longer to eat, so we actually get to that point where we realize we are actually full, we don't need to eat more. Because if you're just gobbling down your food as quick as possible, your body actually doesn't have that time to realize that it's full. Now, if you give it time and you eat slower, you actually tend to eat less calories. So that's the first thing. The second thing is we actually see that high fiber foods, calorie content or the calorie content of it isn't actually as well absorbed as something that's low fiber. So think of the fiber as actually like keeping that calorie intact in that food, and the body really has a hard time digesting it. It's not a bad thing, it's a good thing for the body, but it's not as easily digested and absorbed like orange juice, but it actually now needs to digest this orange. And then what happens is that there's quite a big percentage of it that doesn't actually get absorbed. And you can often see it if you've maybe had some corn or peas or something the night before and you go to the toilet and you look at the toilet bowl, you'll often see a few veggies floating around there. And that's often the fact because not all of it actually gets absorbed back into the bloodstream, which is actually a positive thing because then it means that we are consuming the foods, we're getting that satisfaction, we're feeling fuller, but not all of the calories are actually being absorbed. Then another thing is also because of the fact that fiber is so bulky and gives that, bulk to the food, it often then leads to, remember what I said about the jelly type of consistency we get when something like oats or chia seeds or beans or something gets into contact with water. It actually swells up, and that's also what happens in the stomach. So the stomach tends to swell up a bit, and then there's receptors on the on the lining of the stomach that signals to the brain that you are getting full, and then also leads to you eating less. So that's also how we can then manage the amount of calories that we consume. So those are the main ways that fiber actually regulates the amount of calories we consume by, regulating the amount that actually goes in as well as the amount that gets absorbed. Now, fiber is also super important for actually giving food to the gut microbiota. And we've spoken about the gut biome before and how important it is to make sure that you are having healthy gut microbiota, the probiotics and so forth in your gut. But we need to feed them optimally, and that is how we do it is with fiber. So our bodies actually can't digest fiber very well, but our gut bacteria can, and they thrive on it. So we need to be able to give them that fiber. So when the gut bacteria gets fed that fiber when we consume it in our diet, it actually makes something called short-chain fatty acids. These short-chain fatty acids actually get absorbed back into the bloodstream. So fiber doesn't get absorbed back into the bloodstream, but short-chain fatty acids get absorbed back into the bloodstream. Now this actually can go to the blood-brain barrier, they've seen, and it actually has major health benefits like managing cholesterol levels, actually having good results in maintaining your blood sugar levels, actually has an impact on your metabolism, and of course your weight through all of those things basically. So that is why it is so important to make sure you are consuming a lot of fiber in your diet. There's a lot of research showing that people with higher fiber diets tend to lose weight easily and also and maintain that weight loss a lot easier compared to someone that is on a lower fiber diet. And of course, we see all the health benefits with having a high fiber diet. So I urge you to definitely make sure that when you are buying something that's packaged, to turn it around, look at the dietary fiber content and try to increase it, or try to choose an option that is higher in fiber, and then making sure you are consuming a variety in your diet. So that is where that 5-a-day principle comes from, where we want to try and aim for 5 portions of fruits and or vegetables per day, because then we can make sure that we are getting in that fiber, and then making sure where you are eating grains that they're whole grain as fast as possible, and then trying to incorporate some beans and legumes, nuts and seeds in your diet to get that extra boost of fiber. And last point that I do want to mention, if you are going to increase your fiber in your diet, you need to increase your water intake as well. because a high fiber diet with a low water diet actually may increase your risk of developing constipation, which is something we definitely do not want. So make sure that if you are going to increase your fiber intake in your diet, do it gradually over time. So maybe increase your portions over a period of a week or two, not all at once, and make sure together with that you are increasing your water intake. So I hope this has been helpful. Let us know if you have any questions, and I'll see you in the next one.